Hello, and welcome to another week of Light to My Path, our 2025 Bible reading plan. This week we are finishing up 2 Corinthians, reading chapters 11, 12, and 13, and starting a new letter by a new person, by John. His first letter, chapters 1 and 2. Now, as we wrap up 2 Corinthians, Paul really goes to a lot of different places to kind of defend and explain his apostleship. But he doesn't do it in the way that we might expect, by talking about how great he is or how smart he is or how strong he is. He actually does it by doing the very opposite. He highlights his weaknesses. He highlights how humiliated he's become. And the whole point, and this is what the Corinthians in 1st and 2nd Corinthians are dealing with, is they don't get it, that God's power is not about being strong or impressive or glorious. It's about weakness. It's about self-giving love. It's about laying your life down. And so he does talk about in chapter 12, he has this experience where he has this encounter with God, and it's so amazing that it's just wild. And and Paul says that to keep him from being too elated, he was given this thorn in the flesh that kind of dragged him down, to keep him humble, to keep him grounded. And he asked Jesus 3 times to remove this thorn, and Jesus' response, and it's so great, it's something I think we need to get on board with. He said to me, "My grace is sufficient for you, for power is made perfect in weakness." And so Paul says, so I will boast all the more then, gladly in my weaknesses, so that the power of Christ may dwell in me. For whenever I am weak, that's when I'm strong. This is something, it's so unnatural, right? Because in this world we think when we have stuff, when we have money, when we have power, when we have possessions, when we have security, when we have strength, when we have honor, when we have the esteem of those around us, that's when we're strong. And Paul is like, no, I'm sorry, it's the very opposite of that. It's when we're weak, that's when we're strong, because it's God's power that is meant to shine through. This is the image of the clay jars, again, just kind of in different words, right? It's so that God's power shines through. And so in times of our own weakness, in times of our own suffering, in times when it feels like we're being shattered and broken like those clay jars, remember this promise that Jesus gave to Paul. My grace is sufficient for you. My grace is enough. That's where that comes from. For my power is made perfect in your weakness. And so that's how he kind of eventually comes to a close of 2 Corinthians. And then 1 John, to kind of change the page quite a bit, is John's writing is just so different than Paul's. John, and I'll talk more about this next week too, John's writing is very black and white. Either you're in or you're out. Either you're light or you're dark. Either you're a sinner or you're not. And he's very black and white. He's very binary like that. And when you're reading it, it might make you think, oh no, because I still sin, does that mean that I have made Jesus a liar and his word is not in me? Because that's what you'll read at the end of chapter 1. And I don't think that's exactly it. I think what John is doing is he writes in these very black and white terms to make it clear to us as readers, as listeners, that that there's a right way and a wrong way, that there is, right? So you can't have one foot in one world and one foot in the other. You can't have one foot in light and one foot in dark. That's not the way Jesus calls us. If you're going to follow Jesus, follow Jesus. If you're going to be in the light, be in the light, right? If you're going to follow Jesus, don't try to hold on to sin still. Give it all away. And so John has this style of writing. It's very black and white. It's very alarming, and I think that's the point. I think it's meant to alarm us. As you're reading John also, the first letter of John, you're going to read things that are just so off, like these one-liners that are just off, like this, for instance. This is verse 8 of chapter 1. If we say that we have no sin, we deceive ourselves, and the truth is not in us, right? I mean, that's just wild. But then listen to this, verse 9. But if we confess our sins, he who is faithful and just will forgive us our sins and cleanse us from all unrighteousness. It's just this is the best stuff, right? Chapter 2, verse 1. I am writing these things to you, my little children, so that you may not sin. But if anyone does sin, We have an advocate with the Father, Jesus Christ the righteous. And he is the atoning sacrifice for our sins, but not only for our sins, but also for the sins of the whole world. When you're reading John, some of it is going to be so extreme and black and white, it might not connect for you when you read it through the first time, but read it through again and see how there is nuance and how he writes to alarm us, only to invite us in to see what he really means. I'll say more about all of this when we focus on 1 John next week. But anyway, have a great week of reading. Check out the Bible Project video on 1 John, as always, is super helpful. And let me know if you have any questions. All right, take care.